In this course, we'll define competitive advantage. Resources are the assets, capabilities, processes, employee time, information, and knowledge that an organization controls. Firms use their resources to improve organizational effectiveness and efficiency. Resources are critical to organizational strategy because they can help companies create and sustain an advantage over others. Organizations can achieve a competitive advantage, providing greater value for customers than competitors can. A competitive advantage becomes a sustainable competitive advantage when other companies cannot duplicate the value a firm is providing to customers. Valuable resources allow companies to improve their efficiency and effectiveness. Unfortunately, changes in customer demand and preferences, competitors' actions, and technology can make once valuable resources much less valuable. For sustained competitive advantage, valuable resources must also be rare resources. Think about it. How can a company sustain a competitive advantage if all of its competitors have similar resources and capabilities? Consequently, rare resources, resources that are not controlled or possessed by many competing firms, are necessary to sustain competitive advantage. For sustained competitive advantage, however, other firms must be unable to imitate or find substitutes for those valuable rare resources. Imperfectly imitatable resources are those resources that are impossible or extremely costly or difficult to duplicate. Valuable, rare, or imperfectly imitatable resources can produce sustainable competitive advantage only if they are also non-substitutable resources, meaning that no other resources can replace them and produce similar value or competitive advantage. The external business environment is much more turbulent than it used to be. When customers' needs constantly grow and change, and with competitors working harder, faster, and smarter to meet those needs, the first step in creating strategy is determining the need for strategic change. In other words, the company should determine whether it needs to change its strategy to sustain competitive advantage. Determining the need for strategic change might seem easy to do, but it's really not. There's a great deal of uncertainty in strategic business environments. Furthermore, top-level managers are often slow to recognize the need for strategic change, especially at successful companies that have created and sustained competitive advantages. Because they're actually aware of the strategies that made their companies successful, they continue to rely on those strategies even as the competition changes. Besides being aware of the dangers of competitive inertia, what can managers do to improve the speed and accuracy in which they determine the need for strategic change? One method is to actively look for signs of strategic dissonance. Strategic dissonance is a discrepancy between a company's intended strategy and the strategic actions managers take when actually implementing the strategy. Note, however, that strategic dissonance is not the same thing when a strategy does not produce the results that it was supposed to. A situational analysis can also help managers determine the need for strategic change. A situational analysis, also called a SWOT analysis for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, is an assessment of the strengths and weaknesses in an organization's internal environment and the opportunities and threats in its external environment. A distinctive competence is something that a company can make, do, or perform better than its competitors. Whereas distinctive competencies are tangible, for example, a product or service is faster, cheaper, or better, the core capabilities that produce distinctive competencies are not. Core capabilities are less visible. Internal decision-making routines, problem-solving processes, and organizational cultures that determine how effectively and efficiently inputs can be turned into outputs. Distinctive competencies cannot be sustained for long without superior core capabilities. After examining internal strengths and weaknesses, the second part of a situational analysis is to look outside the company to assess the opportunities and threats in the external environment. In situational analysis, however, managers use environmental scanning to identify specific opportunities and threats that can either improve or harm the company's ability to sustain its competitive advantage. Identification of strategic groups and formation of shadow strategy task force are two ways of doing this. Strategic groups are not groups that actually work together. They're companies, usually competitors, that managers closely follow. More specifically, a strategic group is a group of other companies within an industry against which top managers compare, evaluate, and benchmark their company's strategic threats and opportunities. Secondary firms are firms that use strategies related to but somewhat different from those core to the firm. After determining the need for strategic change and conducting a situational analysis, the last step in the strategy making process is to choose strategic alternatives that will help the company create or maintain a sustainable competitive advantage. According to a strategic reference point theory, managers choose between two basic alternative strategies. They can choose a conservative, risk-avoiding strategy that aims to protect an existing competitive advantage, or they can choose an aggressive, risk-seeking strategy that aims to extend or create a sustainable competitive advantage. The choice to seek risk or avoid risk typically depends on whether top management views the company as falling above or below strategic reference points. Strategic reference points are the targets that managers use to measure whether a firm has developed the core competencies that it needs to achieve a sustainable competitive advantage. In the long run, effective organizations will frequently revise their strategic reference points to better focus managers' attention on the new challenges and opportunities that occur with the ever-changing business environment. To formulate effective strategies, companies must be able to answer these basic questions. What business are we in? How should we compete in this industry? Who are our competitors, and how should we respond to them? These simple but powerful questions are at the heart of corporate, industry, and firm-level strategies. Corporate-level strategy is the overall organizational strategy that addresses the question, what business or businesses should we be in? One of the standard strategies for stock market investors is diversification, or owning stocks in a variety of companies in different industries. The purpose of this strategy is to reduce risk in the overall stock portfolio, the entire collection of stocks. This basic idea is simple. If you invest in 10 companies and in 10 different industries, you won't lose your entire investment if one company performs poorly. Furthermore, because they're in different industries, one company's losses are likely to be offset by another company's gains. Portfolio strategy is a corporate-level strategy that minimizes risks by diversifying investment among various businesses or lines. Just as in diversification strategy guides an investor who invests in a variety of stocks, portfolio strategy guides the strategic decisions of corporations that compete in a variety of businesses. Just as investors consider the mix of stocks in their stock portfolio when deciding which stocks to buy or sell, managers following portfolio strategy try to acquire companies that fit well with the rest of their corporate portfolio and sell those that don't. First, according to portfolio strategy, the more businesses in which a corporation competes, the smaller its overall chances of failing. Think of a corporation as a stool and its businesses as the legs of the stool. The more legs or businesses added to the stool, the less likely it is to tip over. Managers employing portfolio strategy can either develop a new business initially or look for acquisitions, that is, other companies to buy. Either way, the goal is to add legs to the stool. Second, beyond adding new businesses to corporate portfolios, portfolio strategy predicts that companies can reduce risk even more through unrelated diversification, creating or acquiring companies in completely unrelated businesses. More on the accuracy of this prediction later. According to portfolio strategy, when businesses are unrelated, losses in one business or industry should have minimum effect on the performance of other companies in the corporate portfolio. Third, investing in portfolios and cash flows from slow-growth businesses into newer, faster-growing businesses can reduce long-term risk. The best-known portfolio strategy for guiding investment in a corporation's businesses is the Boston Consulting Group, or BGC, matrix. The BGC matrix is a portfolio strategy that managers use to categorize their corporation's businesses by growth rate relative to market share, which helps them decide how to invest corporate funds. The matrix, shown here, separates businesses into 4 categories based on how fast the market is growing, high growth or low growth, and the size of the business's share of that market, small or large. Stars are companies that have a large share of a fast-growing market. To take advantage of a star's fast-growing market and its strength in the market, a large share, the corporation must invest substantially in it. The investment is usually worthwhile, however, because many stars produce sizable future profits. Question marks are companies that have a small share of a fast-growing market. If the corporation invests in these companies, they may eventually become stars, but their relative weakness in the market, small share, makes investing in the question mark riskier than investing in stars. Cash cows are companies that have a large share of a slow-growing market. Companies in this situation are often highly profitable, hence the name cash cow. Finally, dogs are companies that have a small share of a slow-growing market. As the name suggests, having a small share of a slow-growth market is often not profitable. In sum, in contrast to a single, undiversified business or unrelated diversification, related diversification reduces risk because the different businesses can work as a team, relying on each other for needed expertise, experience, and support. A grand strategy is a broad strategic plan used to help an organization achieve its strategic goals. There are 3 kinds of grand strategies: growth, stability, and retrenchment or recovery. The purpose of the growth strategy is to increase profits, revenues, market share, or the number of places, stores, offices, or locations, in which the company does business. Companies can grow in several ways. They can grow externally by merging with or acquiring other companies in the same or different businesses. The purpose of a stability strategy is to continue doing what the company has been doing, just doing it better. The purpose of a retrenchment strategy is to turn around very poor company performance by shrinking the size or scope of the business, or, if a company is in multiple businesses, by closing or shutting down different lines of the business. The first step of a typical retrenchment strategy might include making significant cost reductions, laying off employees, closing poorly performing stores, offices, or plants, or closing or selling entire lines of products or services. After cutting costs and reducing a business's size or scope, the second step in a retrenchment strategy is recovery. Recovery consists of the strategic actions that a company takes to return to a growth strategy. According to Harvard professor Michael Porter, 5 industry forces determine an industry's overall attractiveness and potential for long-term profitability: the character of the rivalry, the threat of new entrants, the threat of substitute products or services, and the bargaining power of suppliers, as well as the bargaining power of buyers. The stronger these forces, the less attractive the industry becomes to corporate investors because it's more difficult for companies to be profitable. Porter's industry forces are illustrated here. Let's examine how each of these forces are bringing changes to several kinds of industries. Character of the rivalry is a measure of the intensity of competitive behavior among companies in an industry. The threat of new entrants is a measure of the degree to which barriers to entry make it easy or difficult for new companies to get started in an industry. The threat of substitute products or services is a measure of the ease in which customers may find substitutes for an industry's product or services. Bargaining power of suppliers is a measure of the influence that suppliers of parts, materials, services to firms in an industry have on the prices of these inputs. On the flip side, the bargaining power of buyers is a measure of influence that customers have on a firm's prices. If a company sells a popular product or service to multiple buyers, then the company has more power to set prices. By contrast, if a company is dependent on just a few high-volume buyers, those buyers will typically have enough bargaining power to decrease prices. To formulate effective strategies, companies must be able to answer three basic questions. What business are we in? How should we compete in this industry? Who are our competitors? And how should we respond to them? Corporate level strategy is the overall organizational strategy that addresses the question, what business or businesses are we in or should we be in? One of the standard strategies for stock market investors is diversification, or owning stocks in a variety of companies in different industries. Portfolio strategy is a corporate level strategy that minimizes risks by diversifying investment among various businesses or lines. The BGC matrix is a portfolio strategy that managers use to categorize their corporation's business growth rate and relative market share, which helps them decide how to invest corporate funds. In sum, in contrast to a single, undiversified business or unrelated diversification, related diversification reduces risk because the different businesses can work as a team, relying on each other for needed expertise, experience, and support. Industry-level strategy addresses the question, how should we compete in this industry? According to Harvard professor Michael Porter, 5 industry forces determine an industry's overall attractiveness and potential for long-term profitability: the character of the rivalry, the threat of new entrants, the threat of substitute products or services, the bargaining power of suppliers, and the bargaining power of buyers. After analyzing the forces, the next step in industry-level strategy is to protect your company from the negative effects of industry-wide competition and create a sustainable competitive advantage. According to Porter, there are 3 positioning strategies: cost leadership, differentiation, and focus. Cost leadership means producing a product or service of acceptable quality at consistently lower production costs than competitors, so the firm can offer the product or service at the lowest price in the industry. Cost leadership protects companies from industry forces by deterring new entrants, who will have to match lower prices and costs. Differentiation means making your product or service substantially different from competitors' offerings that customers are willing to pay a premium price for the extra value or performance it provides. Differentiation protects company from industry forces by reducing the threat of substitute products. With a focus strategy, a company uses either cost leadership or differentiation to produce a specialized product or service for a limited, specially targeted group of customers in a particular geographic region or market segment. Focus strategies typically work in market niches that competitors have overlooked or have difficulty serving. Adaptive strategies are another set of industry-level strategies. Whereas the aim of positioning strategies is to minimize the effects of industry competition and build a sustainable competitive advantage, the purpose of adaptive strategies is to choose an industry-level strategy that's best suited to changes in the organization's external environment. There are 4 kinds of adapted strategies: defenders, prospectors, analyzers, and reactors. Defenders seek moderate, steady growth by offering a limited range of products and services to a well-defined set of customers. In other words, defenders aggressively defend their current strategic position by doing the best job they can to hold on to customers in a particular market segment. Prospectors seek fast growth by searching for new market opportunities, encouraging risk-taking, and being the first to bring innovative new products to market. Analyzers are the blend of the defender and prospector strategies. They seek moderate, steady growth and limited opportunities for fast growth. Analyzers are rarely first to market with new products or services. Instead, they try to simultaneously minimize risk and maximize profits by following or imitating the proven successes of prospectors. Finally, unlike defenders, prospectors, or analyzers, reactors do not follow a consistent strategy. Rather than anticipating and preparing for external opportunities and threats, reactors tend to react to changes in their external environment after they occur. A reactor approach is inherently unstable, and firms that fall into this mode of operation must change their approach or face almost certain failure. Firm-level strategy addresses the question, how should we compete against a particular firm? Although Porter's 5 industry forces indicate the overall level of competition in an industry, most companies do not compete directly with all firms in their industry. Instead of competing with an entire industry, most firms compete directly with just a few companies within it. Direct competition is the rivalry between two companies offering similar products and services that acknowledge each other as rivals and take offensive and defensive positions as they act and react to each other's strategic actions. Two factors determine the extent to which firms will be in direct competition with each other: market commonality and resource similarity. Market commonality is the degree to which two companies have overlapping products, services, or customers in multiple markets. The more markets in which there is product, service, or customer overlap, the more intense and direct competition between the two companies. Resource similarity is the extent to which a competitor has similar amounts and kinds of resources, that is, similar assets, capabilities, processes, information, and knowledge used to create and sustain an advantage over competitors. While corporate-level strategies help managers decide what business to be in, and industry-level strategies help them determine how to compete within an industry, firm-level strategies help managers determine when, where, and what strategic actions should be taken against a direct competitor. Firms in direct competition can make two basic strategic moves: attack and response. These moves occur all the time in virtually every industry, but they are most noticeable in industries where multiple large competitors are pursuing customers in the same market space. An attack is a competitive move designed to reduce a rival's market share or profits. A response is a counter move prompted by a rival's attack that is designed to defend or improve a company's market share or profit. There are two kinds of responses. The first is to match or mirror your competitor's move. The second kind of response, however, is to respond along a different dimension from your competitor's move or attack. When deciding when, where, and what strategic actions to take against a direct competitor, managers should always consider the possibility of retaliation.